Hey there, Cancer. Welcome to your reading for this. This is going to be a Mercury retrograde reading for the retrograde that starts on the 9th and goes until the 29th of November. Your first row is going to represent the past cycle that you're dealing with right now. You have this emotions are running high, and you have this card that says your hard work is paying off. So this looks pretty good right now, Cancer, and we'll see what comes up. But if you've been working hard, then, and sure, we'll take both. A bunch of cards want to jump out here, so we'll take them. But again, if you've been working hard on a project or anything like that, there could be some of your hard work is like finally paying off on what you're working on. I do feel like I don't know. I do feel like you need to like start something back up. It's like I get this energy. I'm just going to tell you what I'm feeling here, Cancer. It's like I get this energy of like starting, stopping, kind of, or it's like you have recently stopped something, or it's like there needs to be more follow through or something is what I'm getting here in the first row. And so, that's definitely something that I would pay attention to here, Cancer, is like, if you're thinking, if you have stopped doing something, it could even be a personal project. It could be your health. It could be anything that you're working on. Like, I feel like there's a need to, pick it back up, basically. But in your first row for the past cycle that you're dealing with during this retrograde, you have the Empress, the Four of Swords, the Nine of Wands, the Nine of Cups, and the Three of Pentacles. The Empress is great, of course, can definitely represent a lot of abundance and success coming in for you. And it can kind of represent your hard work paying off. The Empress doesn't really work hard. She creates a system, and all she has to do is wave that scepter that she's holding in front of her, and the wheat in front of her will grow. The other thing about her, especially during a retrograde, is we have this waterfall behind her. The waterfall is kind of like tied to the tower. You have the tower here. I wouldn't worry about it. We'll talk about why in a second. But, it basically, the bottom of the waterfall represents chaotic force. Because if you were at the bottom of a waterfall, you would be getting tossed around all over the place. So the whole point on the Empress of the waterfall is that she doesn't need her environment to be perfect for her to be successful. She doesn't worry about what's going on in the world or, what's going on with her friends and, things like that. She focuses on what she can control. And so I think that's going to be important for you during this retrograde for sure. You have the Four of Swords and the Nine of Wands. Four of Swords to me is a Mercury retrograde card. It is a card of doing what you should be doing during retrograde. Resting, relaxing, recovering, hoping and praying for blessings, focusing on blessings, things like that. So I would definitely be focused at this time with the Four of Swords. The Nine of Wands is kind of like boundaries and not giving up. Again, this is where I'm feeling a little bit of that resistance here. I think what you're revisiting is something that you've been working on, whatever it is. And it could be a project, a relationship. It could be your health, like I said, could be anything. But it seems to me like you're being given a choice on whether or not to follow through on something and to see something through to the end. I would, if I were you here, Cancer, because we have Saturn in Pisces, but next year, at the end of February, Saturn will move back into Aries. Saturn and Aries, we have to like see something through to the end. That is, again, I always say Saturn, I think what people don't realize is like Saturn brings you gifts if you work with the energy. And so the trick with Saturn and Aries is going to be to start something and to finish it. And if you do that, you will be rewarded. So I want to see everyone who watches me get rewards. That's why I talk about this. And, again, if you're thinking about, revisiting something, I think it would be totally worth it. And it would be worth it to continue your work on it and to, almost like I think it would be worth it for you to have a routine, It would be worth it for you to say like, I'm going to take these steps every single day to get to the end, right? And if you stick to that, you'll be rewarded, plain and simple. You have the Three of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups. Like I'm getting something about comfort here. These are good cards here, Cancer, but I almost feel like comfort could be a little bit of an enemy for you right now. Sometimes I think comfort is the enemy because it's like if you're comfortable and you're not doing anything, then you're not making progress. And again, I'm not suggesting that you should never be comfortable, but it's like sometimes I think comfort can lead to laziness, and that's what I'd be careful of here. The Three of Pentacles is about putting your work on display. So again, this is just like continuing that message of you needing to see something through to the end so that you can put it on display. That's where the blessing, the wish, is going to come from with that Nine of Cups. And, the other thing is if we go this way, we go up to the Ace of Swords. So it's like you're going to have a victory if you put this work in. Like, it's going to be worth it, is what this is saying to me. With the Empress, you have the Two of Cups. Could be revisiting a cycle in love. I'm not suggesting that you're going back to a person or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't during a Mercury retrograde, but you definitely could be getting some communication, or, this could be an apology with the Ace of Swords. You have the Judgment card as well, which can also kind of sometimes bring a past person back. And so, we'll talk about that more in a minute, but, could be an apology. I don't even think it has to be. Again, Two of Cups is you and your higher self. So you could be communicating with your higher self or getting messages about like what love is for you in your life. And you could be getting more clarity on that. Again, usually during Mercury retrogrades, if we're, receiving messages, it's so that we can get clarity in the future on whatever it is. So in this case, love. Here you go. With the Four of Swords and the Nine of Wands, you have the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords is clear for the first time. She only has clouds halfway up her body. So she is getting clarity on the future, and she's looking towards the future. I do like that she's coming up here because she has her back to the past, and she's focusing towards the future position of the reading. So it kind of would suggest that you are letting go of any past cycles, and you are more focused on the future. With the Nine of Cups, you have the Page of Cups. Yeah, definitely could be thinking about love. Like I said, you have the Three of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups. It's like the important questions here, Cancer, would be like, what brings me fulfillment? What would fulfillment look like for me in a connection? I kind of feel it's more questions, that you are asking yourself. And, again, I'm not saying you have to like date a person during this Mercury retrograde, but you definitely could be, it seems to me like you're kind of processing things from past connections, and, that could be making you more clear on what you want in a new connection if you want love. If you don't want love, and even if you do, again, the Page of Cups can be your dream. So you could be getting more clear on like what your dream life would look like, and you could be asking a lot of questions about it as well. Next, we're going to look at what needs closer attention at this time during the retrograde. You have this key card. It says locked doors can now be opened. You have this chalice. It says rejuvenation and fulfillment on it. So yeah, anything that's been blocking you, you could be looking at how to open those doors, right? It is an amazing time for rejuvenation and fulfillment, of course. So, any resting, relaxing, recovering you can do would be very beneficial. But I also feel like you're kind of looking to move some bigger doors, basically. It's like, I'm pretty sure I've said this to you before, Cancer, this year. Again, not a criticism, but I think, you're down here right now when you could be up here is the feeling I get. And again, I'm not criticizing you or anything. I just think the universe is saying like there's more that you could have. There's more success, more fulfillment for you, Cancer, if you open some of those bigger doors. And that's what I would be doing. You have the Tower, the King of Pentacles, and the Four of Pentacles. So the Tower can be a Tower moment, but we're looking at what needs closer attention. Now, the thing is that you have the Judgment card. Tower and Judgment, to me, in a reading, is like a major revelation or a big light bulb moment that's going off in your head right now. And so that's what I would say needs closer attention, is any revelations that you're having. And Mercury retrogrades can absolutely bring in revelations. Retrogrades have to do with any RE words. Revelation is an RE word, the first two letters, literally. So, I think that there could be some big revelations or answers coming in for you at this time. And, I would be paying attention. If you need to write things down, your ideas or whatever pops into your head, I would be recording it, RE, right? So I would be recording those things down so that you can pay attention. Typical retrograde, can't even get my camera to focus. But, what I would say here is definitely something to pay attention to. You have the King of Pentacles. I like the King of Pentacles for you, and I don't at the same time. Part of me feels good because there's a lot of abundance showing up in this reading. So I feel like you could be creating a lot of abundance. The reason I don't like it is because the King of Pentacles is a card of convention. Like, sometimes he plays it a little bit too safe, and he's not taking big enough risks that could change his life, He's kind of playing in his comfort zone. And, I feel like if you were to step through a bigger door, it's like you'd be stepping into the unknown, which could be a little bit of a risk, but I also feel that's what you need to do to grow at this time, or to, get the results that you desire. So I kind of feel both on the King of Pentacles. I feel he's good. I think he's saying that the things that you're doing right now could be leading to abundance, but I also feel like he's saying that you're maybe playing it a little bit too safe, and you could be putting yourself out there a little bit more to get some better results on, especially in work or business, but, it could be any area of your life that you're trying to improve here, Cancer. Next, you have the Four of Pentacles. Again, same thing. Four of Pentacles, he's sitting where he's always been. With the Tower, this could definitely be like a shakeup that needs closer attention, because the reason he's holding on to these Four of Pentacles is because he's afraid if he lets go, he's going to lose what he has. But really, he's just preventing himself from having like the Ten of Pentacles or something better by holding on to what's limiting him. It's like, I always say the Four of Pentacles, it's not bad. It's like this situation could be supporting his life. It could be supporting him, but it's comfort. It's not anything more. And I feel like this reading wants you to have more, Cancer. With the Tower, you have the Strength card, which you have twice in this reading here. There is something about this. By the way, the retrograde is happening in Sagittarius. It's starting in Sagittarius and ending in Scorpio. But, what I would say here is that, I feel that for some of you that, there's like something about this that it's like saying you need to watch your words, is what I'm trying to spit out here. Sorry. I was getting distracted. The Strength card is like saying, she has her hands in that lion's mouth. She is controlling her inner voice. And I feel like that's what you need to do. There could be like distractions. We were talking about the waterfall on the Empress. There could be distractions going on around you. And I feel like taking control is going to be very important for you at this time, of like the words that you use against yourself, the things going on around you, everything. With the King of Pentacles, yes, you have the Queen of Wands. Makes perfect sense. Queen of Wands has to be brave, bold, assertive, confident. She has to learn as she goes, right? We were talking about stepping through these bigger doors that could lead to growth. And again, obviously if you're doing that, you're going to be doing things that you've never done before. So you're going to have to be brave. You're going to have to be confident. You're going to have to learn as you go to make those things work. And so there you go. I think that's what she's saying. And it's good that she's coming up, because she's basically saying you can. With the Four of Pentacles, you have the Temperance card. Yes, Sagittarius, number one, right? So we have this Mercury retrograde in Sag. And also saying, like, what are you waiting for? He could easily get off on this path. This is the path to glory. He could go claim his crown, but he's trying to perfect something or make something perfect before he starts his journey. And it's like clear to me that you are being called to do something with, you have the Ace of Swords and the Judgment card are saying it's kind of like time for you to, put in the work or, make that new move. Next, we're going to look at the hidden message that is coming in for you at this time. You have this confrontation card and this mystery card. So I feel like there is a little mystery. Again, you don't know what's on the other side of the door or of a doorway that you are going through. I feel like it could feel a little confronting, right? You could be confronting aspects of yourself. You have the moon in this reading. The moon is about emotional vulnerability. So again, it's like if you're doing something new in your life or thinking about stepping through a doorway, you are opening yourself up. You're having to be vulnerable to make that move. And I feel like that's what you are confronting here with these cards. You have the Ace of Swords, the Moon, and the Judgment card. Again, Cancer, make sure to like and leave a comment. Really helps me out. But with the Ace of Swords, I feel there could be a victory coming in for you. The trick with the Ace of Swords, especially during a Mercury retrograde, is laser-like focus. Wants you to like pick one thing and see it through to the end. Exactly what we've been talking about. So you have to pick a focus during this retrograde. I don't really feel this is like a hidden message. I don't think it's anything that's hidden from you, but I just feel it's more something that you have to do or should do. You don't have to do anything. Really, as I always say, tarot shouldn't tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want. But I feel doing that could lead to a victory, having a focus. The Ace of Swords is also about cutting things out that no longer serve you. We were talking with the Empress about the noise, going on around you, the waterfall, the chaos. It's like that's what I feel you have to withdraw your focus on. It's like I get this feeling of like every time you go to do something, there's a distraction. And it's like that's what you have to get rid of, right? And, that's what I would focus on here with the Ace of Swords. Next, you have the Moon. I definitely feel like the Moon is talking about emotional vulnerability. We have this lobster on the Moon, and the lobsters don't move very well on the land. And so the lobsters, they kind of tell the Fool, because the Moon is part of the Fool's journey, that he has to release his emotional armor if he wants to be successful on his journey. And, the Moon itself kind of says sometimes things are messy. We have this dog and this wolf, the dog and the coyote, whichever you prefer, I don't care. They represent your domestic side and your wild side. And sometimes I think with the Moon, that the wild side, it basically says that, anytime you do anything important in life, there's a little bit of messiness sometimes, and that's okay. Nothing is going to be perfect, like I said with the Temperance card. So I feel like you have to get comfortable with something that you're working towards, like not being perfect or being a little bit messy, and I feel like that will help you get to these mountains. The Moon is temporary. The Moon comes up, Moon goes down, Sun comes up, and I do feel you're in a little bit of a Moon period. If you're trying to do anything right now, like I said with that Queen of Wands, you have to learn as you go. The Fool has to learn as he goes on this journey, and he just has to get to those mountains, and eventually he will see. Eventually the sun will come up. You have the Judgment card. I definitely feel like there's some sort of like wake-up call or revelation or light bulb moment that you're having this month, during the retrograde, between the 9th and the 29th. Could even happen after, although I think it's happening now. And I would pay attention to like what you're being called to. It's like you're being called away from the Four of Pentacles. You're being called away from a comfort zone. You're being asked to change your life. And, I think there's a million reasons why. But definitely the time that we're in right now, I think that, people who stay stuck are going to be staying stuck in the old world. And we need to step into the new world right now to find success. So, I would definitely answer the call. This could be, with the Two of Cups, this is your higher self angel right here. So it's like your higher self is guiding you towards something better. With the Ace of Swords, you have the Four of Swords again. So again, Four of Swords, resting, relaxing, recovering. He's hoping and praying for a blessing. There is a person blessing another person right here in the stained glass window. This would represent a little bit of action, though, with that Ace of Swords. It's kind of like saying, like, yeah, it's a retrograde. Yeah, maybe you should be resting, relaxing, recovering. But balance, life is about balance. Like, sometimes you can rest, and other times you can, put in the work and make something happen. I always say that Mercury retrograde doesn't say don't work on things. It says maybe you are redoing some work that you've already done. So, it's perfectly fine to reinvent, redo, rework, whatever, anything that you have been doing all along. With the Moon, you have the Eight of Wands. Yeah, quick success, quick, this could be quick clarity coming in for you as well. So again, if you've been confused about doing something, you could be getting some answers this month. And again, you've been getting a lot of readings with me here, Cancer, over the past few months that really have been saying that there are answers coming. But it's almost like you have to get the answers on your own. So I would go get those answers. Eight of Wands is like good news as well. So there definitely could be some good news that's coming in for you here. With the Judgment card, you have the Ten of Swords. Yes, the past is dead. Ten of Swords says something is dead, done, over with. It's time to get up off the ground and start moving forward. He's also making a symbol with his hand here that represents a blessing. So the Ten of Swords can represent a blessing in disguise, or it can represent moving towards like some sort of blessing in disguise. And that's exactly what I would do with the Ten of Swords, is like start making moves towards something that could be a blessing for you. And I think that will lead to the most success. And, I think a change will lead to the most success. Next, we're going to look at how to move forward at this time. You have this expectation card that says hoping, waiting, yearning, longing, contemplation, observing, patience, keeping tabs, delays, taking time. You have this timing card. It says time is important, not too late. Divine timing, trust timing, there's no rush, be present, delays. So everything we've talked about in the reading kind of shows up here at the end. I feel like it's not too late. This card said something that made me laugh. It said, taking time. No, that wasn't it. Keeping tabs. I do feel like you have your eye on something that you want. And so, that's what I would be making your move towards with these two cards. You have the Ace of Wands, the Strength card, and the Eight of Cups. Ace of Wands is out with the old, in with the new. The whole entire reading is out with the old, in with the new. It's like clearly you are working or will be working on something new here. The Ace of Wands is like a passionate new beginning. The Ace of Wands is also like that spark of hope. I always say the Ace of Wands is my favorite card in the tarot because I think it's just that one thing we need sometimes to get us motivated or to get us moving or to help that helps us make a move in life. And it seems to me like you could be getting that like spark of hope or spark of inspiration that is getting you to take action towards, a passionate new beginning or something that has a lot of growth potential. You have the strength card. Yeah, I think talking to yourself would be good, like changing your story. Again, Mercury retrograde in Sag is really good for changing your story. So literally the words that you use against yourself. Also, how you talk to yourself, but also what you think, the story you tell about the outcome you desire. You have to tell the story as if you are already successful. And I feel if you do that with the strength card that you'll be very successful. I would also say with the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Wands is about putting wood on the fire. It's just a spark. We have to build that fire bigger. And so this part of the reading is how to move forward. And I would make sure you're taking actions that, are basically like wood on the fire that you're trying to get to grow. And it could be like a passion project, something that you're passionate about. But I would definitely be, putting that energy in. She's showing off. So, for a lot of you, this could lead to attention or, a kind of like getting attention in the future. People could be seeing the moves that you're making here, Cancer. So very powerful. You have the Eight of Cups. There's definitely some things that you need to walk away from. I think these are things that are holding you back or preventing you from moving forward. Could be certain distractions. I feel like they're distractions, plain and simple. With the Empress there, with the waterfall. It's like, it just feels to me with that Empress that things could be so good. But it's like you try to do something, then like something distracts you. And that is what needs to be eliminated from your life with the Eight of Cups. It's probably something you've been dealing with for a while. The Eight of Cups it has an eclipse on it. We just had an eclipse earlier this year. There are two eclipses in Pisces and Virgo. And, I feel a lot of you maybe have been, it's like maybe around September or something, around that time, you had to deal with this, like a person distracting you or a situation distracting you. Or maybe you notice that every time you try to do something, there's a distraction. And I feel like that's what needs to be walked away from. With the Ace of Wands, you have the Emperor. Really good for love. These aren't meant to be love readings necessarily, but we do have divine counterparts here. The Emperor would be about taking action, of course, which we've talked about this entire time. It's interesting to me that we have the Moon, which is like your domestic side and your wild side. The Empress and the Emperor are the feminine and the masculine. And so there's like a lot of energy mixing going on in your reading here, Cancer, and I would make sure you're using the right energy for the job. With the Strength card, you have the Five of Swords. Yeah, Five of Swords wants you to take a risk. And I think we talked about this, but, it is a good time for risk-taking, putting yourself out there. Also, a card of separation. So, like I said, it seems to me like you're separating away from distractions or people or things or situations that are distracting you so that you can win. And that's exactly what I would be doing with the Five of Swords. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Fool. There you go. The Fool is the start. The Fool is taking the leap of faith. And with the Eight of Cups, it's like you're taking a leap of faith away from things that no longer serve you. But I think you could also just be taking a leap of faith in general to start a new journey. And I feel that would be very, very good for you here, Cancer. You have this Tree card. It says affairs with your family. Yeah, it could be family that's distracting. I always tell a story. I had a friend in high school where every time he was going to move out of his home about like 20 times. No joke. And every time he was about to move out, his mom would get sick mysteriously and end up in the hospital, but nothing was wrong with her. It was like a little bit creepy, honestly. But, eventually he just had to move out, right? Eventually he had to be like, no, this is unhealthy. I need to move out, right? So that's what's going on here. You have this Pineapple. It says reconciliation. Again, I would be careful of past people, but, this card is more a card of like the universe reconciling with you. So, you could be getting some positive karma, or the universe could be bringing you rewards at this time. You have this Needle and Thread. It says a sincere wish will be granted, and you have the Nine of Cups. So if you have a wish, I would definitely be making a wish at this time, or, I would be making that wish your focus, which, this whole entire reading is about focus, which makes sense. Mercury retrograde wants us to focus for sure, but definitely could be a wish. You have this April card and this fair man. It says dealings with relationships of a man with blonde, gray, or white hair. If you're wanting love, you could be attracting someone who was born in April. This could also be, I kind of feel like this could be a success that you're having in April. So if you've been working towards something, it's like that could be what you are seeing through to the end, is you're working on a project and maybe things really take off in the month of April. And finally, you have this love card. Yeah, there is a little bit of love here, so if you want love, definitely could be love coming in for you. And you could be just, like, I'm not saying you have to accept love during Mercury retrograde, but you could just be becoming clear on what you want, and, that is a good thing. But this looks really good, Cancer. Make sure to leave a comment. Really helps me out. And definitely enjoy your retrograde.